It's Powerback time on the Gutsy Podcast, your 20-minute boost to reclaim and refocus your energy. Get ready to have bursts of clarity, a boost of confidence, and the practical steps you need to make gutsy moves forward. You've got big things to do, so let's get your power back. Getting what you actually want is behind the gutsy move that you are resisting. I know that there is something on your list, something in your life or in your world that you have been needing to do. You've been somewhat wanting to do, but man, you are resisting it. There's probably an underlying fear, what might happen, how long it's going to take, how much energy it's going to take. I mean, I'm going to bet that you have become a master at coming up with reasons why you can't do this thing. Well, today we're going to talk about doing the thing that you've been putting off. And I'm going to share with you a story about something that I put off for a year, an entire calendar year, and how once I actually did it, I created so much more energy, capacity, and time in my life to do the things that really mattered. So if there's something in your world that you've been needing to do and it's been looming over your head, and you're ready to get out of your own way to get it done, then this episode is for you. Now, listen, I got to tell you that getting started is often one of the hardest parts of making any kind of change in your life. But continuing, following through, that's a whole different animal. In fact, you are 95% more likely to finish something when you have an accountability partner or a support system in place. This is why the Gutsy Collective exists. This is a community space where women are coming together, where they're working on their own personal goals, but they want to do it in a space with other like-minded women. The women that join are ready to do the work. They just need some guidance, some support, accountability along the way, and someone to celebrate as they accomplish their goals. Simply put, the women inside the Gutsy Collective are making gutsy moves and they're changing their own life. So if you're ready to make a change and you want to do it alongside women that get you, then go to lauraora.com and click on the Gutsy Collective at the top of the page. So let's start today's episode off with a little story. First, I want you to know that I am still working through the things that I guide and teach you with. I have not mastered anything. I am a work in progress. I'm a human just like you. There are always new circumstances, new situations, new people's opinions. Like everything is always evolving. And while you can get really good at something, it doesn't mean that a new situation throwing you off means that you've failed at everything. Doesn't mean that you've unlearned all of a sudden overnight all the things that you've learned. It just means that, you're kind of at a new level. There's something new here to learn. There's a new lesson to absorb. So after I sold my agency, one of the things that I needed to do was to separate my Google Drive from my old email. By the way, this story is not sexy by any means, but this is the real kind of shit that I think that we're all dealing with on a regular basis. Now, one would think it would be as easy as going into the settings and changing the domain name for your email, updating the email. But in my case, that was not an option. And the more I looked into it, the more complicated it got. I was reading blogs, I was reading forums. I was like, okay, how do I fix this? And it just became too big. And then my mind's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to download everything in my Google Drive, and I'm going to have to download everything that's associated with this account, and I'm going to have to create a new account and re-upload things. And this is going to take forever. There's like 100+ gigabytes of data on my Google Drive. That's going to take a long time to download and re-upload. And I just didn't feel like dealing with it. And so I just kept putting it off. Meanwhile, I'm moving on past the agency. I've closed a lot of things. I've shifted a lot of stuff around. Like this is literally the last piece, the last tie that I have with the agency. What it boils down to is I need to get my old email off of this and I need to get my new email onto it. And I didn't know how, and it felt too big and scary. So I put it off for a year. Anytime that I would think about it, I'd get upset, I'd get overwhelmed, I'd start to poke around, and it was like, oh, it's too much, run away. What it boiled down to was I just didn't feel like dealing with it. Can you relate to that? That thing that you're wanting to do, you just don't want to deal with it. It's not exciting, it's not sexy, it's not flowery, it doesn't really make like a huge impact in your life. But also it's kind of scratching your ass the wrong way. I mean, it's just this thing, right? You know what I'm talking about. And so a couple of weeks ago, it came up again. I logged in and I looked at it and I was like, gosh, it's still there. And then I thought, Laura, what would you teach the Gutsy community? What would you tell your listener? What would you tell the women inside the Gutsy Collective? What would you tell them to do in this situation? So I crossed my arms and I pouted for a second and I was like, I would tell them that they need to deal with it, that it's taking up too much capacity in your brain. It's siphoning your energy, it's pulling your focus. And while it's not causing a lot of chaos in your life, right? It's not a huge disruptor. It's something that continuously pulls your energy away from the things that matter. So I admitted, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to handle this. I need to get someone to help me. So I called my tech team. I scheduled a call and we started to figure it out. Listen, I didn't even want to schedule the time to do this. I'm like, I just don't feel like being bothered by it. But I cleared the day. I'm like, I'm going to set 0 expectations for myself for this day outside of handling this fucking problem. Because the other tendency, and I'm sure you can relate to this also, is when you go to deal with something, you want to multitask. You want to get something else accomplished while you're doing this one thing. And then your attention is divided and something doesn't go right and you start to beat yourself up more. And it's not good. So I cleared my calendar. I'm like, I'm not going to do anything else. If I do something else while I'm waiting or he's figuring something out, then that's just an added bonus. But I'm not going to have the expectation that I'm going to, accomplish something outside of this today. And he asked me some questions and he poked around and he's like, you know what? I've got what I need. Let me do a little bit of research and see what I can find out. So I waited a little while and then he called back about, 90 minutes later and he got logged into my computer. Wouldn't you know that in that 90 minutes to 2 hour span, he not only found a solution, he completed the task. He got my old email off of it, my new email on. Turns out there's this whole long back way to go in to change the organization setup and all that. Listen, I'm not a tech girl, but it's one of those things that I, as a consumer and user, I wouldn't know to go do this. But he, as a professional in the IT world, knew the right places to look, the right questions to ask, and knew where to go to change this. I didn't have to download any files. I didn't have to merge anything. I didn't have to do any migrations. I didn't have to do anything other than make the call, open the space, and let the shit get done. The thing that I thought was going to be painful and time-consuming and annoying ended up being so easy. Mind you, I've been dragging my ass, anticipating the absolute worst with this situation. But a singular phone call to someone who knew what they were doing, and a couple of hours of my time later, it was finished, done, no pain. And now I'm not thinking about it anymore. I don't have to give it my time or my energy or my focus. I'm not questioning the what ifs and overthinking this. In fact, when I go to log in now, I'm just like, how amazing is this? It's finished. What this made me realize is that we drag things out and make them bigger than what they actually are because we're afraid, we're uncertain, or there's some information or knowledge that we're missing and it's causing anxiety. You put it off because it's not interesting. You're expecting the worst. You don't want to dedicate time to it. And again, a lot of times it's the stuff that's just not glamorous. It's not sexy. It's not adding substantial value to your life, but it is dragging you down. So my question for you today is, what is your version of this story? What is the thing that you have been thinking about doing, mulling over, overthinking, just compounding how complicated or annoying this thing is? What is that thing that's happening in your life right now? I bet you know exactly what it is. And when you think about it, you get that feeling in your body. By avoiding this thing, you are draining your energy. You are taking up space. There's things that you want to do, but you've been unable to do. And while this thing may not be the entire reason why you haven't, it's certainly not helping you to do it. These are often like a nuisance kind of things. Making a phone call to handle something. Putting away that monstrous pile of laundry that you look at every day. Organizing the kitchen drawer because it pisses you off every time you open it and something gets jammed. making an appointment and going to get that weird sound on your car looked at and fixed, going through and handling and organizing that stack of papers that have gotten completely out of hand. See, these are not huge life things, but they have a huge impact on you. And it may not feel like that in the moment if you just pause with me for a moment and realize how much of your time and energy you have spent thinking about not doing this one thing, you will quickly recognize just how much of you it has taken. The way you take your power back in this situation is by being willing to lean into it, to make the gutsy move, to step in and say, all right, I'm doing it. And then doing the damn thing. This is all about taking action. And I promise you that it will take you a fraction of the time that your brain has convinced you that it's going to take. I know in your mind you have convinced yourself that it's going to take hours or days or months to do this thing. It's going to be hard. It's going to be scary. You have likely created 5,000 reasons why you can't do this. And you have found 5,000 things that you could do instead. Now, I'm not saying that every single thing is going to be like a walk in the park. Sometimes obstacles do come up. Sometimes it does take a little bit longer. And sometimes it is just stupid and annoying. But the difference this time is that it's done. It's finished. That thing that you've been thinking about throughout this entire episode, imagine for a second what it feels like when that thing is done. Feel what that feels like in your body. Notice the sigh of relief that you have, the way your shoulders drop down. Notice how you get a little burst of energy and relief through this. You have the ability to access that, and it happens through your movement. So my challenge for you today is to recognize one thing that you have been putting off, one thing you've been dragging your ass on, one thing that you have convinced yourself is going to be too big and too hard and it's stupid and annoying. I want you to look it dead in the face, and I want you to take action and get it done. I can almost guarantee you that it will take you less time than you think it will. It'll end up being easier than you thought it would be. And you will likely at the end of it say, oh my gosh, why didn't I do this sooner? That's exactly how I felt after my IT guy was like, oh, we fixed it. It's done. I sat and thought for a minute, how much time and energy did I waste on making something huge that really wasn't that big of a deal? And, there could be a million reasons why. I'm also a firm believer in divine timing and knowing that I got him in the right place at the right time and knowing that he would get what he needed in that time and space as well. Because who knows, maybe 6 months prior, that information wouldn't have been available. I don't know. We can't speculate those types of things. But what we can do is decide to take action, to get it off our plate, to finish something. So here's kind of like the 4 steps to this if you want something kind of practical and concrete. First is identifying what that thing is that you need to deal with. Got it? You know what that thing is. Okay. The next is to decide you're going to handle it. Maybe you're saying out loud to yourself, okay, today's the day, I'm going to do it. Next, if needed, ask for help. Get some guidance. Do a little bit of research. If you need some education on the back end of something, allow yourself to do it. If you need an extra set of hands, ask for it. And if this truly is a solo game, then let's create an atmosphere where you can get it done. Put on some good music. Pour a good cup of whatever you love. Get yourself in a space where you are making the best out of a situation that you're ready to be done with. And this kind of coexists with creating space and time. Whether you're just like listening to this and you're like, as soon as we're done, I'm going to go do the thing. Or if this is a project where you're like, okay, I literally need to block in some time, maybe on Saturday or Sunday afternoon. Create the time so that you can dedicate yourself wholly to it. And then there's no magic answer here. It's time to get it done. This is the space where you're taking action. You're making the gutsy move where you're saying, I'm no longer going to allow this thing to hang over my head. I'm going to take my power back in this moment. I'm going to get the damn thing done and I'm going to move on with my life. I can almost guarantee you that you will find a sense of motivation and pride that you're going to be encouraged to do this in other areas of your life. And if not, that's okay. Finish the one thing that's been hanging over top of you. But I find it fascinating that when we realize like, oh my gosh, I have so much more power and ability than I thought I did. What else can I do with this energy? What else can I accomplish? And if that's the energy that you're stepping into, then feed it. Because when all this crap isn't hanging above your head or pulling you down, you have more time and space and capacity and energy to be able to do more of the things that you really want to do. I found myself being excited and ready to create extra content after this was done because I wasn't thinking about the technology. I love creating content, but I've had this kind of cloud hanging over my head thinking about this thing. And after it was done, I was like, oh, I feel a little bit lighter. Oh, I feel a little more inspired and creative. And of course, I get content like this to share with you. I'll share real quick. One of the ladies inside the Gutsy Collective has been feeling really heavy and a little bit shameful about cleaning out her house so that she can prepare her home for sale. And through the collective, getting the support and guidance that she needed, she has been taking action, and it's freaking awesome. In the last 2 weeks, she has taken out hundreds of items out of her home. This is something that felt really heavy and she was thinking about all the time. And now she's taking action. She's getting past the thing that felt too big for her to handle. And this is the power of community. This is the power of the Gutsy Collective. So if you want to make those moves and you are craving support and guidance, I'm telling you, the Gutsy Collective is a game changer. And did I mention the first 2 weeks are free? I mean, on me, I want you to come in and experience the power of this community. So again, go to lauraora.com. You can click on the Gutsy Collective at the top of the page and get started with us. And I would love to know what your one thing that you got off your plate was. So connect with me. I'm on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. My handle is @thatlauraora. Come share with me what you got done and how you feel now that it's accomplished. And as always, until I see you next time, stay gutsy.